Hi, everyone. This is Cindy Harrison, and welcome to another Meet the Artist. And today's guest is Miss Ronnie Bringle.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for doing this. And I know you're relatively new member of the Artful Webinars family, and you've already had a few webinars under your belt with me and with others as well. So how are you liking Zooming so far?
I like it. I like the convenience. Yeah, I pretty much like it. It has been difficult to get used to, kind of that remote feeling. Like you don't really have the interaction with the painters. So you kind of have to, and nobody laughs at your jokes. So I'm thinking about making up some signs that everybody has to hold up that say ha 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 or LOL that they can hold up whenever I tell a joke.
Oh, you don't understand the little acronyms or whatever it is?
My problem is I forget to look at the chat. So yeah, I forget to look at the chat because I get so into my teaching. So I forget, and then yeah, but no, all in all, it's a very good experience. And I like the fact that I can sit here at home and do it, and I don't have to ship things all over the place and all of that. And I always tell myself I miss the traveling, but I don't think I really want to do it anymore. I'm probably too old.
I wouldn't say you're too old, but I can understand the fact that, yeah, you don't have to, like you said, pack all that stuff up. You know, you don't have to carry and lug and worry about, did you forget something, or did you, anything, anything that goes through your head because you don't know, that's all taken away, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, and it does make it nice because when I'm done teaching, I can go flake out on the couch. Don't have to worry about going out in the rain or cold or whatever. So, exactly. But I miss the personal interaction with people. I do.
The hugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. And I noticed the other thing for teachers is hard to not get up and walk around the room and see what everyone's doing. You know, we have to stop and Zoom, and everybody has to be willing to show their stuff. But when you're in person, yeah, you can walk around and sneak around and look at those lap painters. And
well, and it also helps to relieve the boredom. Like I'm sitting here waiting. I'm trying to give you as much time as I can possibly give you. But in the meantime, I'm sitting here getting bored. So, if you're in the classroom, you can get up and walk around and look at everybody's painting. And yeah, so that way you pass a lot of time.
Yeah, watching paint dry, right?
Yeah. So I'm thinking about taking up, I don't know, crossword puzzles or something.
Right. Some teachers actually do paint two items,
I've always had a problem with that because it's hard for me to get into the painting. And if I do, then I get annoyed that I get interrupted.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree with that one too.
So it doesn't usually work for me. It never did, when I was in the classroom, it never did work for me.
No. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. And Ronnie and I are just shooting the breeze right now to get everyone to find us. So thank you for taking the hour out of your day to sit here and watch and listen to Ronnie's artful journey. And if you are on the replay, the same applies to you. Thank you so much for taking the hour out of your day to watch this beautiful interview with this lovely lady. And if you have any questions, whether it's live or recorded replay, you can go ahead and put those questions in the comment area and I will relay them for you. So Ronnie will, if it's live, Ronnie will answer them live. But if it's on the recording, please put a little @. That's that number 2, the shift number 2, the @. Put that in front of her name so that she's notified that there's a question for her, and she'll come back and she'll answer it as soon as she can. So I'm going to just, start off. everyone's, that's here is watching. Thank you. Tell your friends to come join us. But Ronnie, tell us where you are from.
I was born and reared in Portland, Oregon, or just outside of Portland in Oregon. Spent my first, I don't know, 24 years there, I guess, and then moved to Bremerton, Washington. Spent some time there, and then ended up in Kansas for 24 years, and now in Florida.
You're in Florida. Where in Florida?
We are in the central, west central Florida, just about an hour north of Tampa on the west coast, on the Gulf Coast.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I was just on the East Coast in Jacksonville
Yeah.
last week. That's where I was. So, and are you liking living in Florida? Was that like your dream state that you wanted to retire to one day, or how does that happen?
Well, I don't want to badmouth Florida, but my husband and I always said we would never move to Florida. Our oldest daughter lives here with her 7 children and my grandchildren and great grandchildren. And so when we were in a very remote place in Kansas, way out in the country, off the pavement on the dirt road. So when we got to be an age where we felt like we needed to be in civilization, a little closer to hospitals, doctors, people who loved us, we decided on Florida. And it's been a change. I'm a Four Seasons girl coming from Oregon, and I love the mountains. I love the beach. At least we have beach here. So it's been a bit of an adjustment. But I think I like it. I like being close to family. I wish all of my family was here, but I think I'm beginning, it's growing on me. I'll put it that way. And wintertime I love, I'm a definite wintertime person now.
I was gonna say, so the heat and the humidity hasn't turned you away yet?
I'll just say I'm not used to it, and I probably never will be.
Yeah, I know. You stay indoors in the AC, right?
That's right. So you just make the trade-off. If you live in a cold climate, you stay in the wintertime. If you live in a hot climate, you stay in the summertime. You just have to make that adjustment, even though, it takes a couple of years for it to stop feeling weird.
Right, definitely. Yeah. So tell us, did you come from an artistic family? Your parents, your grandparents, brothers, sisters, cousins, anybody?
Nope, I did not. I didn't come, I can't think of any artist that's in my family. Most of my sisters are pretty crafty, but other than that, and I didn't either. I had no artful aspirations at all. I never thought about art until I got married. And
is that when you started painting, when you got married?
Yeah, I was a newlywed. Well, I had just had my second baby, and a friend from high school came and was talking to me about what another friend was doing. So we went over there to see it, and I just fell in love that very day. I said, take me to your leader. So we went to her teacher's house and I signed up for class. I just fell in love with it.
So, wow. Cause I mean, a lot of times people have, like myself, I used to color all the time. I loved coloring, and some of the other artists have mentioned how they were always interested in something in school when they were, elementary or middle or high school ages. Yeah. So you just fell into it. That's great.
Right. I had I can't remember being a colorer. I mean, I remember wanting to be busy all the time. I mean, we did the paper dolls things and cut out clothing and dolls out of the Sears catalog and all that everybody did. I don't remember coloring being a big deal. I don't even remember, doodling much. Oh. And it was just, I think the biggest thing was that we were newlywed. We had just bought our first little tiny house. We were definitely on a shoestring, and I saw that I could make cute things to put in my house. So I couldn't go buy beautiful pictures or anything, but I could paint cute things. So that was the big draw for me, was that I could actually create something that I could use in my house.
Awesome. So do I dare ask, what were they?
Well, daisies and strawberries, of
That's what I
course.
thought.
I mean, come on, that was 1967. Daisies, everything was painted on harvest gold or olive green background, and daisies, strawberries, mushrooms,
Oh,
and
yeah.
owls. We
Yeah.
did owls. Mhm.
My sister had a mushroom canister set. Yeah. And the avocado and the harvest gold and what was the orange one? That orange, you know how they had the green, gold, and orange?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was called though.
But yeah, but at any rate.
Yeah.
So not that we're dating ourselves, but everyone out there can pretty much relate.
Absolutely, yes.
So when you started painting, what was the medium you started in?
I started in oil and painted probably 20 years in oil. Then that was when about the time that we moved back to Oregon from Washington. And I heard about a shop where they were teaching acrylic. I thought I would give it a try. So after about 20 years was when I decided I would branch out a little bit.
And how did you like the going from oils to acrylics?
Well, it was difficult, I guess, in a way, because okay, when I first was taught to paint, I had I mean, back then we were taught the basics. So we were instructed to buy 6 tubes of color, and we mixed all of our color, everything. And only, I mean, like I said, I was on a shoestring. I wasn't, couldn't go out and buy a bunch of stuff anyway. So when I started with the bottle acrylics, I was frustrated, I guess. I did that for a couple of years. And I was frustrated by the fact that I couldn't mix color. I had to buy a bottle of paint every time I wanted a color. So in 1985, I think it was when Josonia brought her little troupe to Portland. And there were 5 artists that gave a week-long seminar. So I went to that, and of course we mixed color. So that was really great for me. And then that's when I decided to switch to the Josonia. And then I did that exclusively then. And I was teaching at a shop in Portland. I was teaching 5 classes a week. And I had one class in oil that I couldn't keep full. At that point, everybody wanted acrylic. So I decided, rather than to go 2 different directions, I would concentrate on the acrylic so that I could, be able to be a little bit more proficient with that. So I kind of edged out the oil, and then eventually I gave it up.
Oh, there you go. So who would you say was your biggest influence in the decorative painting industry?
Probably just Sonia. I loved her work, and I learned a lot from her as far as technique and what the paint does, things like that. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else that really made a big impression on me, and probably more than any other would be just Sonia, I guess.
So how many years, like, you didn't start painting until after you had 2 babies? And so when did you start teaching? Like, what was the period of time between finding this love of your life and actually teaching?
Okay, so this little story. I started that class, like I said, when I think it was in June or July that I signed up to start in September. So we started in September. She taught in 10-week sessions. So I did the 10 weeks with her, and then I think about then, shortly after that, there was a break and then another 10 weeks. So about halfway through that was when we decided to move to Washington. So about 15, maybe 20 lessons at the most, we left Portland and moved to Washington. So I looked everywhere. I talked to everybody that I could talk to, and nobody knew what toll painting was. Back then, it was just called toll painting. So I went into the hobby store downtown Bremerton. There was a place that sold model trains and airplanes and things like that. And so I went in there and asked her, I said, do you have a toll painting teacher? And she said, no, do you teach? I said, yeah.
Oh, you said, yeah?
I said, yeah. Because I wanted to belong to a toll painting community. And I figured if there wasn't one already, I'd just make one.
There you go.
So, I figured I had 15 lessons. I knew what I was doing, right?
Right.
So
So
I really did think, well, I'll just teach what I know. I'll just teach what I know. And when I don't know, I'll tell them I don't know. So that's what I did. And back in those days, back in the covered wagon days, when I took my class, everybody painted their own thing, and she would go from person to person and critique and help. And most of the time she would sit down and show you how to do it on palette paper. So you had your oil on your palette, and she would paint that thing and she'd show you how to do it. So when I started teaching, that's what I did. So I had a short time where I taught at the shop. I taught for Parks and Recreation. I taught at a college extension, and I taught on my back porch. Then we bought a house, and I had this wonderful little building out in the back that had an oil stove and everything. So I started actually teaching more. So like I had 5 or 6 classes a week. So you can imagine if I had like 10 people in the class and I had to go from person to person and sit down and paint whatever they wanted to paint. That is where I learned how to paint.
Right.
And because we didn't have pattern books back then, were newspaper pictures, coloring books. They were starting to come out with a few pattern books then, but they were only black and white line drawings. That's all they were. So no one was teaching, there were no books teaching you how to paint. But so my students had access to all of whatever books I had. And so they would decide, I think I'll paint these, I think I'll paint strawberries on this plaque.
Mhm.
So, I'd go from person to person. I'd say, well, what are you painting tonight? She'd say, well, I want to learn how to paint these strawberries. I'd have to say, well, okay, let's take what I know and apply it to strawberries.
That's so, yeah. So it wasn't a traditional, here's the project like nowadays. It's not like,
no, not at all.
yeah, that is so cool because yeah, I can see where you would learn along with them.
And I would always just tell them, well, I've never painted an owl before, but if I was going to, and I'd always say, do you have a picture? If they had a picture, I was good to go. Okay, you got the picture. Let's see if we can mimic it. So I would just say, this is how I would do it if I was going to give it a try. And there were times when I would just have to say, I can't, I don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't know how to do that. Next week, we'll do it. I'll practice this week. I'll figure it out and we'll do it next week. Tonight, just paint your leaves or whatever.
Sweet.
And they were okay with that. And that really is, honestly, I was very kind of secluded up there in Bremerton. There really weren't any teachers for a long, long time. There were no teachers anywhere around me. So I really did have to learn on my own. And fortunately, I have a husband who he really doesn't paint. But he knows he knows a lot. Let's put it that way. My husband knows a lot about things. And he did have a little bit of art in college. But he's a real honest man. And he could tell me, that doesn't look right. That, there's something wrong with that. Your apple looks like a pomegranate or whatever. And he couldn't fix it for me, nor would he. So I had to figure out how to make it right.
Mhm.
And so for many years, I would tell people nothing leaves my house without my husband's approval, because he's the only person that's honest enough with me to tell me that looks like crap.
Hopefully you didn't have too many of those. I can't imagine.
I had a lot. I had a lot. And then I had a son who didn't mind sharing his
Opinions.
ideas. Yeah. Like, Mom, your perspective's a little off there. You better rethink that. So, you know,
That's good. It's a well-supported family. So
it
when,
was always done with love, and
yeah.
it was my help. I mean, it was how I learned. I still to this day, I learn by trial and error. That's how I learn.
Mhm. And there's a lot there, definitely a lot to say about that.
Mhm.
When did you then become a designer? I mean, kind of like, it sounds like you almost were designing from the beginning, because your students didn't know what they knew an idea of what they wanted to do, but not necessarily. When did you become the designer?
Um, when it was, I can't remember the exact year. It had to be right around 1990-ish. There used to be a really great mini convention in Utah,
Mhm.
in Logan, Utah.
Logan, yeah.
And so I decided I wanted to submit to teach there. So I just, I had painted 4,000 teddy bears by then. So if you can't draw a teddy bear after you've painted that many. So I knew some things. I knew how to draw some things because I had painted so many. So I just drew up a couple designs and painted them and submitted them for that convention. And then I think I shared a booth with Gail Oram. I'm pretty sure that first year I shared with Gail, and I designed a couple things, a couple of pattern packets to sell in the booth. And then that was it. Then I was off and running,
Wow,
designing more all the time.
cool. Debbie says she still misses Logan, and there's Cindy Marlar that totally relates to everything you've been saying. So you can go check those out after.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
so the next question I have is, did you ever have any other job before or during your artist journey?
Oh, well, yeah,
Other than mother and housewife.
yeah, pretty much it was mostly the teaching painting. I did have a couple of times when we fell on hard times, I was the janitor at our church. I also had a couple of houses that I cleaned, but I didn't go out into the workforce. I was a stay-at-home mom for all the years I've been married, and just made extra money by teaching most of the time.
There you go. There you go. How do you come up with your designs?
I
Think
get
about that one, right? That's a harder question.
that is a hard question. Um, a lot of input from other people. I listen to what other people say, they like. And now that I'm like semi-retired, it's a little bit different, but for the time that I was really designing a lot and travel teaching, it's pretty much what I was doing every day, probably 18 hours a day. That's what was on my mind. That's what I was doing. So there were always ideas coming. You'd paint one thing, and then it would spur you to think of something else. Or you'd see a wood piece or a wood, a box or whatever, a cute piece, and you'd think you wanted to figure out something to put on there. So deciding what to design was always the hard part for me.
Um,
Um, I know people give me a bad time for saying this, but I'm not terribly creative. I know people always give me a
Hard
bad
to
time.
believe.
I It's a struggle for me. I'm German, okay? I am not terribly creative. I do love to create, and I love to stay busy, and I love to have things to do, and I love to paint and create beautiful things and all kinds of hobbies I love, but it generally is me getting ideas from other people and other things. So the
Oh.
actual creating, thinking of what to paint was the hardest thing. Drawing it and putting it together, making the composition seemed easy for me. I seem to be able to look at a composition and see what's wrong with it. So it's kind of a double-edged thing I've got going on.
Yeah, but that's cool. I mean, and when you said you were German, I'm like, and that's why when the person in that store said, "Do you teach?" You said yes, because that's why
Exactly.
my aunt was married into a German. Her mother was German. Her mother-in-law was German. That woman was a tough cookie. Open heart, big heart, but a tough cookie. And she was ruling the house, even bedridden in her 90s. She's ruling the house, She's
Yeah.
a tough cookie. So yeah, wonderful
Well,
lady.
one of the things that I understand about my German personality type, a lot of people, when they try something and they get halfway through it and they don't think it's going to work, they'll quit.
Mhm.
My personality says you will make this work. And so that's why I say, I've learned so much from trial and error. It's because it doesn't seem like I ever learned how to do anything right until I do it wrong several times. And
Yeah, I
and
can.
I don't give up.
Yeah, I can. Well, yeah, and that's what I mean by the tough cookie, by the way, everyone, that she wouldn't give up.
Yeah.
She's going to be. But yeah, the Helen Barrick, I took a class with Helen Barrick, and she said, "I want you to make a mistake." And the whole class is like, "Excuse me?" She goes, "I want you to make a mistake. Do not do it perfect the first time, because if you do, you don't learn anything." So there you go. You're the same mindset. That's how you learn. What is your favorite subject matter, and has that changed over the years, or how is that for you?
I think from the very beginning, of my very favorite has always been still life. It is it's just what I love to do. It can be, excuse me, it can be anything. It can be fruit and vegetables. It can be objects. It can be flower, not so much flowers, I guess, but anything that you put together on a table. I love to do still life. So that's my very favorite thing to do, but I guess that's not what I'm known for. Most people, when they hear my name, if they know my name, they think of Santa Claus. So because of that, I do enjoy painting the Santas, because I know that they'll be well received, and I know that it gives people pleasure and makes them happy. So I do enjoy painting the Santas. So that kind of led to portraits. So I started about 7 or 8 years ago. I started being more serious about portraiture. So I do love doing that too. So those are probably the still life and the portraits. If you wanted to ask me what my worst thing is, it's got to be landscape.
Oh,
I'm so bad at landscape, so you don't see too much of that with me.
okay. Very good. And what is your favorite medium? I know you did oils, you did acrylics, and I know you're now using tube acrylics. What is that your favorite medium now, or do you have an overall favorite medium?
Well, yeah, it probably is, just by virtue of the fact that it's what I do. I really sometimes I think, oh, it'd be fun to pick up the oils again, but I don't really want to. My little tiny art space doesn't want to have a whole bunch of stuff in it, so having another medium in here might be a problem. I do colored pencil, and I do some watercolor, but my watercolor, I'm very much a beginner in that, so it's not my strong point. I love the colored pencil, but I guess acrylic is probably the best for me now.
And what's the brand that you prefer?
Golden.
Mhm.
It's the golden heavy body.
Okay.
Mhm.
I saw a painting once, not not yours, but I was on a cruise and there was a painting that my husband doesn't say much, you know, I'll show him what I do, but sometimes he doesn't really, most of the times he doesn't say a lot. But this one painting on this cruise was like a fall maple tree, all the different colors of fall, the warm colors.
Mhm.
But they were like globs of paint. You know, I paint smooth. I paint acrylic smooth, everything. This was very big globs. So is the heavy body paint the kind that you can have that and it's raised off the canvas? How, I always wonder what they used.
It's not going to be heavy enough to make big gobs. It will make ridges pretty easily. It's about, I mean, it's not as thick as oil in a tube. It's just not quite, but it is pretty heavy body. And you know, to use your liner brush, you have to mix it with water. It's, you know, you've got to thin it down some. But I think if you were going to actually make some sort of textural painting, you'd have to add some medium to it.
So do you like it mostly because of the pigmentation, that the vibrancy of color? What makes it, what about it do you like better than using the bottled acrylics? Or Joe Sonia for that matter?
Well, the bottle acrylics, now I haven't, I understand from other people that the Traditions is a fairly heavy bottle acrylic, but I have never used it. I know people that use it really like it a lot, and I think it has a lot more pigmentation than some of the others. So for my style of painting and the techniques that I use, I need a thick, heavier paint that has more pigment to it, I guess. I don't want to have a whole bunch of different colors. I still want to be able to mix.
Yeah.
So my basic palette that I generally, I'm trying to think of a number.
Is there
And
is there more open time on those that you can mix them easy?
it's only open in the fact that you can lay it on fairly thick
Okay.
and still blend wet into wet.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And I can mix whatever, you know, that's probably the big thing, is that I can mix whatever color I need.
Mhm.
So my basic palette probably doesn't have more than 10 colors.
Cool.
And most anything that I paint is going to have like 6 colors.
Wow.
Plus raw umber and white, maybe burnt sienna. But
Mhm.
as far as the actual hue, it's 6 or 7 colors at the most.
Wow. That could save money right there.
and space.
And space. Oh, most definitely. And space. Lori's talking to you here, saying she hears you, and she goes, I just can't fit a kiln in there either. So she's talking about the space that you don't have for everything.
Yeah.
So the next question I have is, do you have a favorite brush? Now, I know I own a Bringle blender, but is that your favorite brush, or do you have another favorite brush?
I mean, I gotta say, it's probably all I use. There are a couple other Sharf brushes. I like their liner. I use that. I use the little tiny detail brush, their spotter, the number 4 spotter. I'm just looking at my brushes to remind myself if there's anything else. Sometimes I'll pick up a brush from the old days to do some toning on the canvas or something.
Mm.
But for the most part, I am just pretty much stuck with the Bringle blenders, the round, flat, and ovals. They pretty much do everything I need them to do.
So how did that come about, that you would have a series of brushes named after you?
Well, do you want the long version or the short version?
Well, we got 20 minutes and I only have about 5 more questions, so you pick.
Let me condense it just a little bit. when I started having some success at the national conventions, and I started looking for, actually I was teaching the technique that I was teaching, I had to have a certain kind of brush. So I went to Langnickel, asked them if they would make it for me. Eventually they did. Then through a series of happenings, I did switch from Langnickel after, I don't know how many years, quite a while. I was having trouble getting the brushes. So I thought, well, if I could have two sources. So then Betty Bird at that time was having brushes made. And then Betty passed away. And so that kind of went away. And then Sharp approached me to ask me if I would consent to have them make my brushes. So that's what happened.
Nice.
But it started out with me seeking out, I was at convention, going from booth to booth, trying to find a brush that looked like it would do what I wanted to do with it. And that's when I started with Langnickel.
Oh, cool. I just think that's awesome. I'm sure everyone, I know I have several of them, so I'm sure everyone has some Ronnie Bringle blenders in there.
Yeah.
And their stash,
Well, everybody will have to tune into the next week to the thingamajiggy, the demo, so you can see how I use them.
That's right. That's right. What is your best tip to a student? What's the best tip you can give students?
Probably be where you are. Enjoy. If you've been painting for 6 weeks, enjoy it. If you've been painting for 6 years, enjoy it. Nothing's going to stay the same. You're always going to grow and learn. If you stick with it, you're going to grow and learn. That doesn't mean you have to know it today. Just enjoy what you're doing today. Enjoy the process.
Good, nice. Lori's asking if you've ever tried the new Pure Artist pigments from Plaid. I hadn't even ever heard of them. So
I've never heard of it. No.
We'll have to go seek that out and find out more about that. Jeannie says, I have your blenders and just took your Santa class. Great class.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please, Jeannie, if you didn't already, post it in Artfully Connected so we can all ooh and ah over it, because I love seeing what people are working on. I'm jealous. I never get a chance to paint anymore. Is there a medium or a subject or a technique that you haven't tried yet that you would like to try?
That's a tough one for me. I've been painting for 56 years.
You would never know it, by the way.
Tried it all. Let me see. Let me think for a second.
It could be a medium, it could be a subject matter, or it could be a technique.
Right. I mean, right now I'm striving towards having a more loose and what we say painterly look to my work. So I still love the decorative painting, and I still do the decorative painting, but I suppose my goal right now is to achieve a little more relaxed look.
Like an impressionistic one?
No, just
okay.
Maybe more realistic.
Oh, okay.
A little more realistic, maybe, with a softer approach to things. I don't know. I can't think of anything that I wish I was doing. I mean, I know people, they do wonderful work with pastels, but I'm not doing pastels. I'm not going to do it. But no, I mean, honestly, I'm searching for an answer to that question.
But you've done so much, right? You've done so much. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Do you have any other hobbies besides painting?
I have had and do have. Yes, I do.
You garden or cook?
No, I don't garden, and I hate to cook. I used to garden, but that was before I moved to Florida. I do paper crafting. I make junk journals and things like, I love paper crafting, and it's right up there with painting. It's like every day of my life. It's like, which of my loves am I going to do? Can I do one for 2 hours and then do the other? No, because once you get into one, you can't just stop. So I do love paper crafting. I've also done needle felting, wood carving. I've done, I said I'm not a creative person, but I do love to create. I love to make things. So I've done a lot of different kinds of hobbies.
And junk journals are in now, I think. This is like the first time I heard about them, and I hear about them all the time now. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty fun thing. The thing about it is that it's almost just as creative as painting. Like when you make a junk journal, you design each and every page to look artistic. So
pretty cool.
yeah.
Nikki's asking, why did you switch from golden open to heavy body acrylics?
I did like the golden open. I liked the fact that it stayed open, and I hated the fact that it stayed open because I couldn't work fast enough. My technique, my style of painting is layering. So when you put down that paint that stays sticky for an hour and a half or 2 hours, I just lost patience with it. I loved it. It was a little more transparent also. So it required more layers than what I had been doing even. So I liked it, and there were a lot of things about it that I did like, but eventually I decided it was making me frustrated. So I thought I would try the heavy body, and I do like the heavy body.
Cool. I that's for me, that's one thing I like to try sometime, is to work more with the heavy body paints and see how they differ. I know that someone in the chat was talking about the painting behind you and how they loved it. You want to tell us about it? The bird song?
Bird Song is my newest painting that I'm going to be doing with Cindy. And Cindy, I think it's in June, right?
It is June 4th and 5th. Yes.
June 4th and 5th. So I don't know if I can grab it. This will be kind of fun. And here again, I'm trying to remember, surprisingly, how few actual tubes of paint you need. I think there's only maybe 5 colors plus black and white.
Black and white. Yeah.
So tell them the date again, because I don't remember.
June 4th and 5th.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And you said earlier that you're not a flower person, but you have a beautiful bouquet there.
Well, it's my style of flower. Not very good at painting realistic flowers, but
those are so pretty, because I kind of chuckled when you said that, and I'm like, but she has flowers right behind her.
I know, but they're decorative, they're decorative painting flowers.
They're so pretty, and your background is so soft. It's just beautiful. It has like an ethereal feel to it,
Well, thank you. I enjoy doing those kinds of backgrounds.
So, and now you have a second one coming up in October 15 and 16. That's Cozy Corner, and that's going back to your love of still life, right?
Yep. Yeah, this one has a lot of stuff in it. So like you said, this one's in October.
Yeah.
I still have to repaint this one so that I can remember how I painted it. So
we don't tell them that. We just, how you did it, and it's going to be fine.
Well, since after I moved to Florida, I had about 5 years of retirement where I painted and painted and painted and didn't take any notes.
Yeah.
It was actually really nice to paint without having to worry about taking notes. So now I have to go back on some of those and redo it so I can remember how I did it.
Yeah, refresh your memory, because you might find you do it differently now.
It could be a little different.
Yeah. Now you're going to be doing the Watch, Learn, and Create next week, I think it is. I didn't put that on my paper. What is it that we're going to be doing there, and are you going to be teaching or demoing to the group?
I thought I would go over the changes that I've made to my techniques, that the ones that I did for so many years, that if people have painted with me, they're familiar with the smooshing, the wet stippling, dry rubbing, dry brushing, all of those things, and show on a face, maybe also on a piece of fruit or something. I haven't decided what yet, but definitely on a face, to show what I'm doing now, how what I'm doing now is the same result, but using a different technique, so that I'm not doing that stippling and dry rubbing anymore.
That's good to know.
And then I have a new way of smooshing that's, it creates the same look, but it's it's handling the paint a little differently.
That's always good to know, because not one technique works for everybody. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So if you can educate the people and show them that they can do or achieve the same look, but with a different approach, and that might click with them better, and they'll feel better about what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. So other than Artful webinars, where else are you teaching so that the people can find you and have more choices?
I don't have anything that any in-person classes going, other than I teach occasionally for my local chapter here. And then I've got occasionally I teach I've got a couple different ones coming up with now you made me forget.
Sounds like
what is it? It's art room
to create.
Yeah. It went away. I kept wanting to say artful webinars, but no. Art room to create. So that's where we just did the Santa last week, and so I've got a couple coming up there.
Cool.
And people can go on my website and see pretty much what I'm doing.
Awesome.
Also, if you go on my website, you can sign up for my newsletter.
Yep. And you have patterns and books there, and do you sell your brushes there, or?
Yep, I sell brushes and patterns.
Awesome. So everyone can go over there, and it's really a difficult one to remember, RonnieBringle.com.
I figured I might as well make it easy.
Right. Make it as easy as you possibly can. Is there any questions from the gallery? If there are, please put them in the comments and I will read them off for Ronnie. Otherwise, I finished all of my questions, which happens frequently. I look to the people to ask questions and comments and such. And so Ronnie will go back after and she'll read all of your beautiful comments. And yes, please go and check out her website. And also too, if you've posted any of paintings that you did with Ronnie, we'd love to see them in the group, so you can post them and tag us by putting a little @ sign in front of our names, and we'll go look at them. Jeannie's saying, do you sell the paint on your website too?
No, I don't. In fact, if it's okay to give a plug, I buy mine from Dick Blick. Mm-hmm. And generally, if you buy 4 or 5 tubes, it's going to be free shipping. And then he usually has, they have, I don't know, it's a 20% off or something, retail. Hobby Lobby doesn't carry the paint, but Michael's does in limited supply, I think.
And Michael's, you can order online some stuff too. So maybe you have more of a selection online than in person. Kathleen says, great hearing about your journey. And Donna says, Donna Scully says, you look as beautiful as ever. So good to see you.
Hi, Donna. Thank you.
So yeah, everyone, thank you for being here and listening to Ronnie's beautiful journey. And I hope that you'll come back and see her Watch, Learn, and Create. Stay tuned for that. And we have a whole bunch of Watch, Learn, and Creates this month again. So we have, well, this month, okay, there's only one more day to this month, but in April, in April, we have Lydia Steve's doing two, a chickie in colored pencil and a bunny in pastels, and Amy Mogish and Deb Intonic, and there's a whole bunch more. So please come back, continually come back and bring your friends. Thank you so much, Ronnie, for sharing your journey with me. And I hope it wasn't too painful.
No, it was fine. It was fine. After I got started talking, you couldn't shut me up.
There you go. And that's what I love. That's what I love, that, you know, you're sharing and with these lovely people in the audience, and they are enjoying getting to know you a little bit better. And so sign up for Ronnie's classes, artfulwebinars.com or Art Room to Create. Either one of us, we are glad to have you there and happy that you're supporting your local teachers so that we can keep them busy and not have to go find real jobs, because we don't want to make them have to find real jobs.
No.
Everyone, thank you so much, Ronnie. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.
Thank you to everyone that came and joined me tonight.
Good night.
Bye-bye.